Senator, I want to ask you a final area about your faith, which you talk about week in and week out and is so important to you. And I want to play a very famous clip from JFK, President Kennedy's, where a speech in 1960 where he talked about his views of religion influencing him. And this is a portion of what he said.
I believe in a president whose views on religion are his own private affair, neither imposed upon him by the nation nor imposed by the nation upon him as a condition to holding that office. I do not speak for my church on public matters, and the church does not speak for me.
Senator, you called that in the past a, quote, horrible speech, in part because you felt that he was too rigid about the separation of church and state. There's a concern within the party and certainly to a lot of other voters where your faith ends and your presidency would begin.
Yeah. The original line that you didn't play that President Kennedy said is, quote, I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute. That is not the founder's vision. That is not the America that made the greatest country in the history of the world. The idea that people of faith should not be permitted in the public square to influence public policy is antithetical to the First Amendment, which says the free exercise of religion. James Madison called people of faith and, by the way, no faith and different faiths the ability to come in the public square with diverse opinions, motivated by a variety of different ideas and passions, the perfect remedy. Why? Because everybody's allowed in. And the idea that people of faith have to keep it a private affair, my goodness, what does that mean? That the only thing you're allowed to bring to the public square is secular ideas or things that are not motivated by faith. Look at all of the great movements in this country that led to great justice, to righting wrongs that exist in this country. The slavery movement, the civil rights movement, all led by people of faith, bringing their faith into the public square that all men are created equal and they're God-given rights. So this idea that we need to segregate faith is a dangerous idea, and we're seeing the Obama administration not only segregating faith, but imposing the state's values now on churches, which is even a bigger affront to the First Amendment.
Here's what Kimberly Strassel wrote, and it seems to reflect views that are conservative as well as moderate about you and whether you would then act on your faith in a way. She writes this: Reagan's success was in respecting cultural conservatives' right to live their lives as they saw fit. Mr. Santorum's mistake is in telling people how to live. His finger wagging on contraception and child rearing and homosexual acts disrespects the vast majority of couples who use birth control or who refuse to believe that the emancipation of women or society's increasing tolerance of gays signals the end of the republic. So, Senator, are you going to use the bully pulpit if you're president to talk about these issues, to rail against areas of our culture that you disagree with, or will, given your comments about President Kennedy, go beyond that and make it a focal point of your presidency to act on your beliefs?
It's so funny. I get the question all the time. Why are you talking so much about these social issues? As people ask me about the social issues.
Senator, wait a minute. You talk about this stuff every week. And by the way, it's not just in this campaign. Sir, in this campaign, you talk about it, and I've gone back years when you've been in public life, and you have made this a centerpiece of your public life. So the notion that these are not deeply held views worthy of question and scrutiny, it's not just about the press.
Yeah, they are deeply held views, but they're not what I dominantly talk about, David. You're taking things that over a course of a 20-year career and pulling out quotes from different speeches on issues that are fairly tangential, not what people care about mostly in America, and saying, oh, he wants to impose those values. Look at my record. I've never wanted to impose any of the things that you've just talked about. These are my personal held religious beliefs, and in many forms that are in fact religious, because I do speak in front of church groups and I do speak in these areas. I do talk about them, but there's no evidence at all that I want to impose those values on anybody else. There are important issues that this country is confronted with right now, and that's what I've been talking about. And I will continue to talk about the role, for example, of the family with respect to our economy, and how stable families and fathers involved in their families and out-of-wedlock birth rates are in fact a serious problem in this country that we need to do. And by the way, Daniel Patrick Moynihan was talking about that in the 1960s. This is not This is not something that is some sort of religious idea. These are practical problems that we're dealing with in America, and that's what I talk about on the campaign trail. And the problems that I'm looking to confront are creating jobs, reducing government role in people's lives, reducing the budget deficit and getting to a balanced budget, making sure our country is safe around the world. And you go listen to my speeches. That's what I talk about. And by the way, I do talk about other issues. You know what? Because like any other candidate out here, I actually take questions from people. And people ask me all sorts of things. And unlike most politicians, I answer them.